Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we're discussing the Generation 2 Vacheron Constantin Overseas Chronograph, the 49150, and this one with a combination of titanium hardware and steel primary construction. This watch is generally seen on a strap. It's known informally among collectors as the Deep Stream, and while the Deep Stream is rarely seen on the full factory bracelet, making this watch a bit of an outlier in a model range that's already fairly rare by general watchmaking standards. Now, on my 16cm circumference wrist, the 42mm case wears quite easily. 42mm in diameter, the watch is only 12.5mm thick, so though it is a highly water-resistant anti-magnetic complication in a sports style, nevertheless, it will fit underneath just about any cuff, including tight dress sleeves. Lug-to-lug, the watch measures true as you can pull the bracelet straight down. The distance across the wrist is 50.7mm, and take note of the fact that you can push that bracelet straight down. It has no rigidity or flare. There's also a little bit of a curvature, if you can see how the lugs cant downward around the wrist at the edge, making this large watch nevertheless suitable for a wrist as small as 14 to 14.5 centimeters circumference, the lower end of that range if your wrist is more oval than round. I'll show you the bracelet off the wrist, and it really is a huge part of the attraction of this watch. I can't imagine owning a Generation 2 Overseas without at least owning the bracelet as an accessory. You have to have it. It's mandatory. It's beautifully hand finished. As you can see, there are polished facets inside that really only show to advantage when you roll it through the light. So there are inner faces that are hand finished and hand polished that you can barely see. The ultimate mark of integrity. You can see that Maltese cross Vacheron logo recapped in every single link. You can see the profile is nicely rounded off from the satin of the tops and then continues to polished flanks. And take note of this, not only are you able to pull the bracelet straight down or even a little bit inward if you have a small wrist, but if you really need to size perfectly, every single individual link is removable, and that is true on both sides of the bracelet, so you will size this one precisely and you'll have no difficulty doing so. Jumping back to the details of the bracelet, I want to quickly move to the clasp, which is a twin trigger system and very secure. Close the clasp. One feature I like here is that it's non-sequential, so you can't accidentally close one side of the clasp on the other and mar the finish. You've got that Maltese cross motif there, but you can also see that the triggers themselves feature a little bit of an inward tuck, suggestive of the Maltese cross logo. Rolling back to the case, you can see in profile it's all of high polish, and there's a lovely little transitional bevel that runs the full case and across the lug hoods that transitions between the polish of the flank and the satin finish of the hoods. You also appreciate the fact that the bezel is beautifully executed and it's a contrasting finish. It's a blasted matte finish on its top, and if you look between the individual recesses, you can see that it's actually vertically satin finished right there, and it's a lovely contrast because it's so incredibly subtle. And so too is the contrast between the steel of the bezel, or I should say the steel of the case, and the titanium of the bezel. There's that lovely anthracite versus silver, which is exquisite, and you can see it again in miniature as the shoulders for the chronograph pushers, the actual screw down locks, those are of titanium and the pushers are steel. It's a lovely look, and that tonal contrast continues onto the dial, where you can see white gold individual indices and hands which have been somewhat blunted to match that anthracite coloration, and then you have that anthracite sunburst. You have a chapter ring flange outboard against which you can precisely read minutes and fractions of seconds. You have sunken sub-registers, and you'll note each one of the sub-registers has a little polished chapter ring which gives it that refined feeling of opulent luxury. You'll also appreciate the fact that there's a calculated asymmetry here, making the chronograph minutes register larger so it's easier to read. And it's quite reasonable. You need, in order, the chronograph minutes register, the chronograph hours, and then probably last, the constant seconds register. So you can see how each one is scaled down with less size and less calibration until you get to small seconds. Prominent at 12 o'clock, you can see the double-digit date. Now, there is a quick set system. This is one of the most lamented losses in the transition to the Generation 3 Overseas, the loss of the Grand Date. Well, you have it here, and it helps to sort of anchor the dial. I think of it as the focal point of the watch's face, and the face truly is the heart and soul of the watch. On the case back, you can see several different types of finish. Let me open up this case back and get a little bit closer, because frankly, the detailing is surprisingly good for a case back that's solid. Now you can see outboard there's a circular concentric satin finish. There's a sunburst across the inner ring framing a blasted base. You can see it's a frosted blasted base, and then relieved and polished waves, sails, hull, and rig. The image of the Italian naval training vessel Amerigo Vespucci, a lovely image, and of course the watch overseas with an overseas sailing vessel, and 150 meters water resistant with a soft iron inner cage like a Rolex Milgauss that helps the watch to achieve 25,000 ampere per meter. Remember, the ISO 764 for an anti-magnetic watch calls for 4,800 amperes per meter, so this is 25,000 and 150 meters water resistant. A robust machine. Automatic winding, 40-hour power reserve, Frederic Piguet 1185, vertical clutch column wheel chronograph with a quick set, beaten away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, 37 joules. It has every feature and refinement, including 5-position adjustment and hand finishing. The only feature it does not have is hacking seconds. In every other respect, this watch is the real deal and the complete package. See it and make it yours on the Watchbox. Overseas Chronograph by night.